Welcome to Radiant Resilience. This practice will be a Yin Yoga practice. So, if you're not familiar with a Yin practice, it is mostly on the floor. Today, we will be doing everything on the floor, where we come into a pose and we're going to stay in each pose for about 3 minutes. Um, the reason for that is it takes about 90 seconds or a minute and a half for our connective tissue to really start to soften and release. So these longer held poses gives an opportunity for that connective tissue to start to release and get a little stretch. Oftentimes people will ask me, what is the difference between a yin practice and a restorative practice? Because they sort of look the same. You're on the floor, you're holding poses for a really long time. With a restorative practice, you're getting into a pose, you're using all your props to get super comfortable in the pose so that you're just able to fully let go and relax. With a yin practice, it's actually a stretch. So the restorative is really about resting, right? And in some various different poses. In the yin practice, it's really about moving into a stretch and holding it. So, really important when we go into these stretches on a scale of 0 to 10, you want to be around a 4 or a 5. So, you don't want to be at your maximum edge of your stretch. You want to go into about a 4 or 5, never into anything that's sharp or painful, and we'll hold that pose and just try to let go in within that stretch. So the difference is you're holding a pose in a kind of a deeper stretch as opposed to restorative where you're in a pose and you're fully supported, not really much of a stretch, but you're just relaxing. Okay. Some of the benefits of a yin practice are it calms and balances the body and the mind. It reduces stress and anxiety. This is why you only want to go into about a 4 or a 5 level in your stretch, because if you're at that max edge, you're not going to be able to move into your breath and calm and go into that parasympathetic nervous system state where we're in rest, digest, and repair. So if you're doing it correctly, it'll reduce stress and anxiety. It improves circulation into those areas that we're stretching. It also helps with that circulation. It helps lubricate as well, because we're going to be going into the hips a little bit, into those joints. I'm also going to try to get poses where we do all the different movements of the spine. So a little bit of a forward bend, a little bit of a back bend. Of course, these are going to be gentle, side bend, as well as twist. So we're going to be doing all of that with the spine. We're also going to be working into our hips. Um, let's see what else. I was on the benefits. It improves flexibility, obviously, because we're in those stretches where we're lengthening and holding so that things start to release. So it improves flexibility as well as joint mobility, and it moves energy as well as, oftentimes if we're kind of tight or stuck in places, the energy gets kind of blocked in those areas. So as we open things up, it can help move the energy. And it's also because we're doing everything mostly on the ground. It's a very grounding practice. Uh, let's see. I'm trying to think of what else. So with that longer held stretch, it's kind of a slow, steady load on that stretch and on the connective tissue. As far as what you're going to need before we get started, you're going to need a props. So I have a strap. I actually have 2 straps. You could use a belt or a scarf. You might want to have two. You could use a belt or a scarf or even a towel. I'm probably won't use the blocks, but you might want some blocks handy just in case, and a blanket or a big towel. So you want something that has a little bit of thickness to it. And I'm going to use a knee pad. Just very briefly, if you know when you're doing kneeling things, you need some padding there. And then also you might want a pillow. So I just have this meditation pillow because it's easy to kind of move around, but you could use like a couch cushion or a pillow or something that has some firmness and some thickness to it. And you may not end up using all of these props because I am going to give you options of ways to set up for each pose so that you're keeping yourself safe. We all have different bodies with different things going on in them. So feel free to experiment and to change things up if we go into something and it doesn't feel good to you. Never, listen to your internal wisdom. Okay, I think that is it. So we're going to start, when we go into these poses, we'll hold them for about 3 minutes, but I'm also going to incorporate some other more flowy movements and stretches as we release out of them. So first, we're just going to start with some easy warm-up movements. So go ahead and lie down on the floor or your mat. And we'll start out, some of these props are so close to me now. Find your constructive rest pose where your knees are bent, feet are flat on the floor, arms comfortably from your sides, palms facing up, and then take 2 sighs. First one, let your low back and your belly soften. So you're not pressing it down, you're just relaxing in that area of the body. And then do the same thing for the shoulders. Let the shoulders start to melt towards the floor. Once you do that, if you're able to lengthen out the back of the neck, sliding the base of your head away from your shoulders, go ahead and do that. So that will cause your chin to drop down as well towards the floor. And then we're just going to take some deep, deep, easy breaths. Inhaling, expanding in every direction. Releasing the exhales long and slow. Just kind of working into our present moment. The breath is a wonderful way to do that, focusing on your breath. It's also always with us and it is free. Best tool we have available. And then we'll take a great big sigh. Let's do that one more time. Big inhale, sigh it out. Beautiful. From there, take a breath in. And as you exhale, bring your knees up into your chest. And we're just going to pause here for a second. Hands on kneecaps. If you feel more comfortable, you can cross ankles. And then we're just going to push and pull the knees in and away from the chest by bending and straightening the arms. Inhale as you straighten. Exhale as you bend. Good. And then as you bring knees back into the chest, you can either rock your knees side to side or make your circles with your knees going in the same direction. So we're just moving into our low back and sacrum, back of the hip area. If you have crossed ankles, switch that cross. And if you're circling, switch the direction of your circles. All right. And then coming back into the middle, open knees apart, circle them around, bring them back together. So we've moved out of the low back and into the hip joints themselves. And then go the other direction. All right. As your knees come back together, you're going to separate the knees, but bring the soles of the feet together. Keep your tailbone long and your neck and shoulders relaxed. And then grab onto your legs as low as you're able to go without lifting your shoulders up and crunching the back of your neck. So you want all that to be relaxed. And then you could give your feet a little pull towards your face. You could also separate the feet into more of a happy baby position. In either position, you might feel like you want to rock. All right. And then come center if you were rocking for a breath. Release that knees to the chest, hands to the backs of your thighs, flex the feet, and then bend and straighten the legs. As you're straightening the legs, really flex your feet, pushing heels up, drawing the toes towards your face, and see if you can spread your toes out. Okay, and then reach the legs up, reach the arms up if that's comfortable, and then point and flex your feet. If you're reaching up with the arms, move through your wrists too. Palms up, palms down. Rotate ankles and wrists. And rotate the other direction. Beautiful. All right. And then knees back into the chest again and set the feet down. So once we go down with the feet, lengthen out your legs. Oh, the other thing I mentioned is if we're going to be using a wall, if you don't have a wall handy, you could use a piece of furniture. That's what this is there for. So I can show you that setup if you don't have a wall or if you find the furniture more comfortable. All right, so we're going to lengthen the legs out on the floor. And then stretch your body, big full stretch. Let's flex the feet, push out through the heels of your hands, and then exhale, relax to the floor. Inhale, just stretch out through the right side. The left side's relaxed. Exhale, release, and then go to the left side stretch. Release, and then one more full body stretch. Maybe this time point the toes and reach out through your fingertips if that feels good. And then relax. Okay, we're going into our first longer held pose. It's banana pose. So remember that 4 or 5 out of 10 of intensity. So first, let's get our arms set up. If you're able to cup your elbows over your head, you're going to do that. If that's not comfortable, you could take your pillow or your blanket over your head just to have a little height underneath your arms so they don't have to go all the way down. You can also change it up. You could do hands behind your head. You could lengthen the arms out. You could go wider with your arms. So find a position with your arms that works for your shoulders, lets your shoulders drop down, and lets your chest be open and the back of the neck long. So I'm going to cup elbows, but if that's not working for you, you're going to do a different thing. And then keeping your legs long, walk your feet to the left. Notice, does your right hip start to lift? Then you probably went too far. So you want to drop the right hip down so the hips are evenly settled into the floor. If you feel so, check that 4 out of 5 intensity. If you feel like you want a little bit more, you can slide the upper body to the left as well. See how that is. So I'm at about that 4 or 5. If you're not, because everybody's different and you want a little more, you can take your right leg, keep it long, and just cross the ankle over. Again, check that the right hip is dropped down evenly with your left, and your face is towards the sky. Okay, I'm going to uncross my ankles because that's a little intense for me. And sometimes you get into it, you're a little bit ambitious, and then you check in and you're like, oh, I have to hold this for 3 minutes. Then you're probably past your 4 or 5 point. All right, so I'm going to set my timer just so that I can be aware of how much time we have going on. And then you're going to take a great big sigh. We'll go one more sigh. And then moving back into just your deep, slow breaths without strain. So you're going to breathe in, expanding all the parts of the torso that you can expand without strain. So you're going to keep your breath pretty soft. And exhale, long, slow, and easy. So this pose lengthens the whole side of the body. We're lengthening the right side of the body here, which includes the lats, which are up kind of in that side of the rib cage into the side of the armpit and arm. When those are really tight, it can make it hard to keep your arms over your head. We're stretching the obliques, those part of the core. We're coming into a little side bend for your spine. Stretching the muscles in between the ribs, the intercostal muscles, as well as a little bit into the IT band, that outer part of the hip. Now, if you have the ankle crossed, it will definitely increase that IT band outer hip stretch. So you can play with that if you want. And we're just breathing slow and easy, extended exhales. Some of the challenge in a yin yoga class is being able to be still instead of fidgeting. So you're going to try not to fidget. Of course, if you find you need to adjust your pose, you will do that to stay safe. But let that fidgeting go as you drop in and slow down. And you can hold a pose anywhere from 3 to 5, even 7 minutes. We're just going to do 3 minutes today. All right, let's take one more big breath in here. Sigh it out. And then if you have the ankle crossed, uncross the legs. If you had your upper body slid to the left, you'll bring it to center and then slide or walk your heels back into center as well. Before we do any other movement, just kind of check in with how everything's feeling. And then from there, walk your feet back to the floor and bring your knees into your chest and do another little rock side to side before we go to the other side. All right. As we come back, we're going to set up other side. So if you have your forearms crossed overhead, do that again. You'll probably go into the forearm cross that you usually habitually would go to. So see if you can comfortably switch that cross of your forearms. And then we're going to walk, keep legs long, walk the heels to the right, drop your left hip. So I had to back out of my stretch a little bit because my left hip was wanting to roll up. If you want to take it a little bit further, you'll slide the upper body to the right as well. Shoulders are both dropped down into the floor, face to the ceiling. Left hip is dropped down. And then the final thing you could add is to cross your left leg over right, keeping the legs straight. All right, so check in again. Notice, do you need to make any adjustments? Did it feel like you went too far? If so, adjust it so that you're at that 4 or 5 out of 10. And we're going to take a few deep breaths. Big sighs, inhale. Let it go. One more, breathe in big through the nose. Sigh it out through the mouth. Let your inhales be large and expanding in all directions without strain. Exhales long and slow. And as we slow down, we start to become more aware of our mind, often that monkey mind where it's flitting from thought to thought. And instead of trying to shut that down, just allow it to flow, but without attaching to any particular thought or story. Just let it pop up and float on by like a cloud coming into your awareness, and then it floats past without you moving into the story. Also notice, do you have any thoughts of resistance? Like, you don't want to do this. Sometimes being still is the hardest thing to do because we are so used to being in constant motion or constant activity. So just notice if that's cropping up, acknowledge it. And when you're ready, you can let it float back, float by. Soft, easy breath, full and long without strain. And soften the muscles in your face, your forehead, your eyelids, your brow. All right, we're going to come into our sigh here as we get ready to release. Big inhale. Sigh it out. And we're going to release just as slowly as we moved into this. First, uncrossing legs if they're crossed. And then bringing the upper body back to the middle. And then sliding the legs back into center. And then let's let the arms come down comfortably by your sides and just loosely move your legs in and out. So the toes are kind of moving in and then the toes are moving out. Ankles are soft and floppy. Knees are soft. Hips are soft. All right. And then from there, bring the legs back to stillness. One more big full inhale, body stretch. And then as you exhale, bring your right knee into your chest. If it's more comfortable, you could slide your left foot back to the floor. We'll stop here for a sigh. And then we'll go back to your full body stretch. Inhale, stretch out. And then exhale, bring your left knee into your chest. Right leg can stay long, or you can bring the foot to the floor. And we'll sigh here again. Both knees coming back up to your chest. Let's do another little side to side rock. And then set the feet down on the floor. Arms come out to a T, easy windshield wiper twist. So you're exhaling as you twist, knees one way, head the other, and then inhale back up to the middle. So go side to side a few more times. We're going to come into a longer held twist a little later. This is just little counter movements after that side stretch. Okay. And then as you come center, let's bring the knees back in and we'll take another couple of little rocks. Okay, so we're going to set up for our next longer held pose. We're going to come onto our side. All right, so I'm going to give you some options here. First option is you can keep your head propped. The other option I'll show you in just a second. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the bottom leg, top arm, bottom leg, find your bottom foot. Now, I'm just going to turn this way so you can see like that. Now, if you are unable to grab your foot comfortably, if that bothers your knee or your knee just doesn't have that much bend to it for whatever reason, you can take your strap around the foot and hold on that way. So basically what the strap is doing is it's just making your arms longer so that you can accommodate what that bottom leg can comfortably do. Okay, so we're here. I'm going to release the strap. I'm just going to hold on to my foot. So you can stay right here. This top leg is forward like this. You can stay in this position. You could also lengthen, oops, I'm kicking things. You could lengthen your top leg forward, and that gets a little bit more into that side part of the hip too, and maybe even into a little bit of your hamstrings. Now, you don't want that to be so far up that you feel like you're rounding your low back. So you'll find a position that's going to work for that leg. If that's not feeling comfortable, we're going to use props. So I'm going to take you could use a block or a pillow. You could put that underneath your bent leg, that top leg in a bent position, or you could have your leg long and have your pillow or blanket or whatever you're using underneath so it doesn't have to drop all the way down into the floor. Okay, so first get that stuff set up, and then you can stay propped up, head onto your hand here, or you could lengthen that arm that would be supporting your head and drop down and let your chest kind of open towards the ceiling. All right, so I gave you a lot of information. Take your time to get yourself set up, okay? And then I'm gonna get us ready. And we're just gonna start to take some nice deep breaths here. If you can, we're gonna go into your sides. Big inhale and sigh it out. Do that again. Identify places where there's a lot of intensity. And when you sigh, see if you can soften into those spots at all. And then let your breath flow easy. Check in. Are you at that 4 or 5 out of 10? If you're past 5, then you need to adjust to take some intensity out of the pose. All right. So as I mentioned, there's a lot going on in this pose. That bottom leg that we're holding, and if you want more intensity in that bottom leg, you could slide the knee further back. So the bottom leg we're holding gets into a little bit of a quad stretch, the front of your thigh, and even into the front of the hip, possibly, depending on how tight you are there. Top leg, as I mentioned, if your leg is straight, it could be working into your hammies a little bit, as well as stretching that outer part of the thigh of your top leg. And if you have your head propped up, it's a little bit of a side bend. If you're dropped down, it's a little bit of a twist. And this pose is called cat pulling its tail. And you're just going to breathe as deeply and as softly as you can. And we're already halfway there. Settling in, resisting the urge to fidget, but giving yourself permission to make adjustments so that you're safe and that you're in that 4 to 5 range of intensity. Remember, no sharpness, nothing painful, which is different than the sensation of a stretch. Check in with your jaw. Bring some space between your upper and lower teeth so that you're keeping your jaw soft. Tongue is resting gently in the roof of the mouth without touching the front teeth. And your lips are relaxed. Okay, taking another sigh. And then slowly release your hand or your strap from that bottom foot. Come on to your side, knees into your chest. Roll onto your back again. Oh, and we'll do some knee circles. And then go the other direction. Okay, and then we're going to set the feet down into our constructive rest pose, feet on the floor, arms comfortably from your sides. Take a sigh. Just notice what you're feeling here. Okay, so we're going to set up for the other side. I'm going to flip around so that I am still facing you, but you could roll to your other side from there if you want to. Remember, take your props with you. All right. And then we're going to set up. So we'll start just by propping the head while we get the rest of the stuff set up. You're going to grab, top hand is going to grab your bottom foot or get your strap set up. Okay. And then you can pull that knee back as far as you want to pull it. Top leg is either bent out in front of you, either resting on the floor or a little lift, a folded up blanket or a pillow, or top leg is extended in front of you, and you can find the best angle for you with the foot on the floor or the leg propped up with your blanket or pillow. Okay. Okay, once you've got that set up, and then you can either stay in this propped head position, or you could open that bottom arm forward on the floor and let your chest kind of rotate towards the ceiling. So that top shoulder is dropping back towards the floor. All right, so whatever you chose, let's check in. Do you need to make any adjustments to find your 4 to 5 range out of 10? And then take a great big inhale and sigh the breath out. Let's do that again. Big inhale. Let it go. Softening your jaw, the face, muscles in the face. This side might feel different, and you might find you have to set it up a little bit different, and that's okay. Accommodate your body where it is in this moment. Easy, slow breath. Check in. Is there any spot that you know you are habitually sort of grip or hold tension in? And as you're breathing here, see if those spots can start to soften. It may not happen all at once, but little tiny improvements are perfect. That bottom leg that we're stretching, it's a very slight amount of internal rotation of the hip too. And in a moment, we'll do the external rotation. Check in. Are your thoughts just floating by, or did you fall down a rabbit hole into some story? If so, bring your attention back to your breath. And then let those thoughts float by without attaching to them. If you're unable to breathe slowly and deeply, then you probably are too deep into your pose. You're probably past that 5 position. So soften if you need to. All right, let's take a great big inhale. Sigh it out. Let go of that bottom foot. And then we'll come on to our side. Both knees are bent. Roll to your back. Rock side to side. Or we'll do some great big knee circles. Okay, so I mentioned, okay, if you're circling, go the other way. Ooh, all right. And if there's something else, some other movement that would feel good, maybe for me, I really kind of wanted to go back into this butterfly happy baby position that just felt intuitively right on my body. So if there's something else that you know would feel really good, go ahead and move into that as some counter movement here. Not really a wrong thing that you could choose. Just do what feels right for you. Okay, good. Now we're going to get set up. I mentioned that bottom leg where we were holding the foot, there was a very slight amount of internal rotation of the hip. Now we're going to move into an external rotation. Now in traditional yin, it's kind of a variation of pigeon pose, but I find that to be a little intense for people. It doesn't always work for everybody. So I'm going to give you an option that does the similar stretch in that in yin, it's called swan pose, but it's a little bit softer and a little bit more easily adjusted, which is figure 4, one of my very favorite poses. Okay, let's reset this. Remember, I mentioned that you might want to have a piece of furniture, so I'm going to give you a couple of ways to set up for this. The first way is figure 4, and you know, figure 4 where we usually are holding our knee up. I want us to use props to hold the legs up. So you're going to cross your right ankle over your left thigh. So I'm going to give you several options. First one, if this is feeling like your 4 or 5 out of 10 stretch, you'll be here. If you need to up the intensity, you're going to place something under the foot. So you could do a block, or you could do the seat of a chair. And I'm a little bit far away, so you might need to go up just like that. That can feel really good. Or you can use a wall. So for the wall, I'm gonna scooch over here, but you're gonna come almost like you're setting up for legs up the wall, but you're gonna keep your hips further away from the wall than you might for legs up the wall. And then lean back, bring legs up, and then you're gonna cross right ankle over left thigh. Slide your left foot down until you get the right amount of stretch for you there. If your tailbone is curling up, or if your hips are lifted, you're too close to the wall, or you slid your foot too down on the wall. Things you can do to sort of switch this up if this really isn't feeling good to you is you could cross your top leg a little further over. So instead of being at the ankle, it might be more mid-calf, or even bringing the knee all the way in towards the other knee. So you can adjust that way too. And we're gonna find that 4 or 5 level of intensity in whichever way you set up. And then we're gonna do our big sigh. So take a great big breath in and sigh it out. One more big inhale. Exhale with a sigh. Soft face and jaw. Shoulders are relaxed. Back of the neck is long. If you get into it and after a little while you feel like you want a little more intensity, you can just take your bottom knee, so in this case it would be your left knee, and just move it slightly to the left, which will pull your right leg as well and increase that stretch. So this is external rotation of the hip. It's also working into the glutes, specifically a muscle in that glute area called the piriformis, which can, when it's really tight or locked up, it can press on your sciatic nerve, which can cause sciatica symptoms. Feel free to sigh anytime you feel like you need to. And we're just about halfway into this side before we go to the other side. Easy, slow breaths. With the exhales longer than your inhales. When we move into that longer exhale and inhale ratio, we are helping bring our nervous system into that rest, digest, repair stage or phase. And then let the thoughts float by. Arms are at an angle that works for you and your shoulders, with the palms facing up to keep the front of the chest open. Okay, we're going to take a sigh here. If you're at the wall, you're going to lengthen your bottom leg up and then uncross. If you're at the other, using a block or a piece of furniture, you can uncross the legs. And then once you have everything uncrossed, let's bring knees into chest and rock side to side. Coming back into center, and we're going to set right up for the next side. So if you're at the wall, lengthen up your legs. If you are not at the wall, you're going to keep your feet on the floor, knees bent, and then cross your left ankle over your right thigh. From there, if you're not at the wall, you can bring your right foot to a block or up onto a piece of furniture. Or if you're at the wall, you're going to start to bend your right knee, sliding the foot down. Once you've done that, check if you need to adjust the top leg. So I started with you ankle at the thigh, but you could cross that leg further over, going more to the mid calf, or even bringing the knees all the way closer together. It just depends on how that stretch feels good. You want to get into the spot where you feel like you need it the most. Okay. All right, I'm going to hit start and we're going to take a big sigh. Hips are relaxed down on the floor with the tailbone long, palms up, back of the neck is long. If after a little while you feel like you want that little more intensity, you can start to move your right knee towards the right to pull the left leg with it, giving you a little more intensity. Still within that 4 to 5 range out of 10. Soft jaw. Using the props allows you to soften more than if you were holding with your hands. We often move through our day hurrying just out of habit. If you find that you're doing that, a good thing to ask yourself is, where am I going and why am I hurrying? And is there a reason to hurry, or am I just doing it because that's what I'm used to? Release your spine, your low back towards the floor, as well as let the shoulders melt down. All right, big inhale through the nose. Sigh the breath out. If you're at the wall, lengthen both legs up towards the wall. And if you're using a different prop, go ahead and uncross the legs. And then everybody bring your knees into your chest. Do another few little rocks side to side. And then we're going to work our way into our next pose. So if you're at the wall, you'll want to come back to your mat. Okay, so let's bring the knees into your chest again. We'll just rock side to side a little bit, and then let's lengthen out again for a big full stretch. And exhale, let go. So I had mentioned that we were going to do another little twist. We're going to hold the twist a little bit less time. So we're going to only go into it for about a minute, but I really want you to be comfortable. So we're going to start on our side. Bottom arm will be out in front of you. Now, just like we did with cat pulling the tail, you can use props. So you can do, we're going to have knees bent. You can do a little bit of lift, blanket, block, pillow underneath your bottom leg. You could do something in between the legs, or you could do both. Whoa. So the idea here is that you're able to, if you start on your back, you want your shoulders to stay where they are, and then come into the depth of your twist that still allows your shoulders to be on the floor, and your legs will be the thing that is lifted if you need to, instead of the shoulders. So the shoulders will be flat. Adjust with props so that your legs can comfortably go into that twist, and then take a great big sigh. Head is looking over your opposite shoulder. And twists not only are great for wringing out the spine and stretching all those little muscles that run up and down the spine. They're almost like, look like a chevron going in both directions. But it also helps wring out the organs. It helps move your energy up and down the spine, your main energy channel. All right. Well, we're at the end of our minute. Take a great big sigh. And then bring your head to face the ceiling. Bring your knees up so you're on your back, and let's rock. Okay, we're going to set up for the other side. So I'm going to flip it over again so that I'm still facing you, but you feel free to just roll to your side if you need to. You can start out the way you had your first side set up if you know that's going to work for you, but it might feel different. You might have to change things up a little bit. So remember, you can just support underneath both legs. You could support in between the legs, or you could do a combination of the two. But what you'll want to do is come onto your back. So your shoulders get nice and flat, arms at a T, and then go into your twist so that your shoulders stay flat. If your back shoulder starts to lift, you probably need a little more help underneath your legs. So this side felt a little tighter. I could feel my shoulder lifting. So I wanted a little more height under my legs. All right, so take your time, get yourself set up while I reset this, and we'll be here for a minute. So as you go into this, take a great big sigh, soften into it as much as you can. Let your breath flow as easily and slowly as possible. And notice if there feels like any constriction in your breath. Like, do you feel that you can only breathe into your chest, or you're only breathing into the mid ribs, or just into the belly? And see if you can breathe into all three areas, expanding the torso in every direction. That minute goes by quick after doing 3 minutes on the other poses. Here we are. Take a big sigh. And then bring your knees up as we rock side to side. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to come up onto our knees. So roll to your side, press your way up, and then we're going to come up into a table pose position. So if you need to get some padding under your knees, go ahead and do that. Right? And then let's just do a little cat-cow. Exhale, round, inhale, arch. A few more here. And we'll take one more. And then from there, wag your hips side to side. Really exaggerate your shoulder movements. It gives you into a little more of a side bend. Okay, so now we're going to come into melting heart, or a version of puppy pose. I'm going to show you again some different variations so that it's going to work the best for you to come into your 4 to 5 intensity out of 10. So you're going to keep your hips up, and it's called melting heart because you're trying to melt your heart. Forehead is on the mat. Arms are extended in front of you. Depending on your shoulders, you might find that you need to go wider with your hands. But the idea is to have your arms pretty straight with your elbows lifted off the floor. Now, if you go into that and you feel like it's not deep enough for you, in a more active class, I have you come up onto your fingertips with your palms lifted. But it's a little hard to relax into that. So what you could do is bring a little lift under your hands. That's why you have those two blocks, and that gives you a deeper stretch. So that's one option you could do. Another option is maybe it feels better to be on the elbows with your elbows bent. That's another option. See how that feels. A third option is if it feels too intense, you're past that 5 intensity level, is where you can use a pillow. So what you would do is you would have your pillow underneath your chest to give you some support as you lengthen the arms or go onto the elbows, so that you can control that level of intensity. All right, I'm going to set the watch and take a big sigh.
check in instead of fidgeting. If you're really uncomfortable, just check in if you need to make adjustments here. And their forehead on the mat is also stimulating that third eye, the seat of our intuition. Relaxing your jaw. Heart is melting towards the floor. So this is good for opening the shoulders, the heart, the front of the chest. It's considered a back extension or a little bit of a back bend in the upper and mid back. So really good for helping with posture, since we're a society of people who tend to round forward. This is a very good pose to help counteract some of that forward rounding technique, forward head, and rounded shoulder position. Just a little longer. See if you can soften into any other place that you might feel some gripping or holding. Okay, let's take our sigh here before we come out. Deep breath in and let it go. All right, from there, we're going to spring ourselves, slide our hands in, come back up into our table position. And let's go into another little cat-cow. And then from there, you can continue with your cat-cow or go into a side bend, or maybe it would feel good to move into a down dog here. If so, you can move into that. Maybe there's a different pose that would feel good. We're going to do one more yin pose before Shavasana. All right, so let's come on back. Our last yin pose is child's pose. So if your child's pose is not a comfortable place, I know it's not everybody's comfortable spot, you're going to use some props. Props can be something underneath your hips if your hips don't like to go all the way down to your heels. You could have something going across your calves. That also is supportive if you don't, like if your hips don't want to go all the way down to the heels. If your feet are uncomfortable because they don't like to lengthen out, see how if you're more like this, sometimes that can be a hindrance. So you could take a rolled up blanket to support the ankles. The other thing you could do is go a little wider with your knees. Ooh. And then rest your torso on a prop that way. Okay. So find what's going to work for you in your child's pose. If you have space and it's comfortable, here, I'm going to move this out of the way. You're going to let your arms, either you could support your head or you could bring your arms down by your sides, which might feel really good after your puppy pose. You can go narrow with your knees or you can go wide with the knees, big toes together. All right. And then Go ahead and take a big sigh in your child's pose. You can bring a little movement into this if you'd like by either rocking your forehead, again, stimulating that third eye area, as well as massaging out your brow and your forehead. You could also rock your whole entire body. Now, if you choose to rock, I wouldn't do this for the whole time, but it might feel good to do just for a little while. Shoulders are relaxed. And then take a big sigh if you come back to stillness. So puppy pose was a back extension or a little back bend. Child's pose is more of a forward bend. Let your breath flow easy. This pose can be very calming. Jaw soft. It also stretches out the low back a little as well as the hips, knees. Easy, slow breaths. All right, big inhale through the nose. Sigh the breath out through the mouth. And then go ahead and come back up. Whoa. Come out of it nice and slow. And then let's do a little barrel roll. So think of your torso inside of a tube and you're moving your middle all around the sides of the tube to scrub all around. And then go the other direction. All right. So same thing here. If you have some organic movement, something that you know would just feel really good before you get settled in, go ahead and do that. And then we're going to come into Shavasana, final relaxation. We do have props. So something that you might want to do is to take your blanket or your pillow underneath your knees or your calves as you settle down to the floor. You don't have to do that, but it can feel really good. Arms comfortably away from your sides, palms up. You could also go constructive rest pose, knees bent, if that's better. Back of the neck is long. And now we're going to take 3 sighs. Big inhale. Let it go. Breathe in again. Let it go. One more time. Full inhale. And let it go. This is your time to let the yin practice to integrate and settle in with your body.
I'm going to share a little quote from you while you rest from Sonal Pandey. Today, I choose to lovingly do everything I can to assist my body in attaining and maintaining perfect health as I deeply and completely love and accept myself in my present state. Take a breath into your belly. Let it go. Breathe in belly, low ribs. Let it go. Breathe in belly, ribs, upper chest. Biggest breath you can take. And let it go. And then when you're ready, start to bring some movement back into your body in whatever way would feel good. Still lying down. When you're ready, bring yourself to your side. And when you get there, sigh again. And then as effortlessly as possible, bring yourself into your seated position. Bringing your arms down by your sides. Inhale, sweep arms all the way up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Bow your head towards your heart center. Thank yourself for your practice today. I thank you as well. Namaste.